Matt Orfalea creates an amazing video that goes viral for Sanders. He doesn't do it working in tandem with the Sanders campaign. He does it on its own. And by himself doing that particular video, of all the videos that I've seen of Sanders, this might have been the third best, and it didn't even come from his campaign. You don't know his name. You will know the video. Let's take a look at it real quick, and we'll talk about it afterwards.
Bernie is back, getting into the presidential race.
Democrats like somebody new, and that is not going to be Bernie Sanders this time.
It's really hard to imagine who the Bernie Sanders voter is at this point.
Bernie Sanders, fall back. Please get away from us.
Hey, Senator, great to see you. Thank you for doing this.
He has a kind of gruff, curmudgeon-y side that is, of course, well known. He doesn't actually smile that much.
It's almost like Bernie can't tell the difference between kids and adults.
All right, I think you're dumb. I think you're dumb if you don't sit down and learn how to read and write. No, you were not born stupid. Come here. The only way I think you're dumb, I think when you think you're dumb, because you're not.
He also, I think you're disheveled, you're unlikable, and you're pushy, and I don't think you should be leading anybody.
Old is too old.
I think the issue is, do you seem like you're in the contemporary world? He's a socialist from the 1950s yelling at people in the same screechy voice, without smiling, without any kind of personal connection. He looked like the angry man in the center of the stage saying, "Get off my lawn." I don't think that's a good look for the Democratic Party.
I see him as sort of a not pro-woman candidate. You may have heard the term Bernie bro. The Bernie bro, right? Somebody who's a bit younger, whiter, I think, than the overall Democratic primary.
I'm with my magnificent vanilla brother named Bernie Sanders. That's Brother Bernie Sanders we talking about. That's Brother Bernie Sanders we talking about.
Socialism has been a manifest disaster.
Alec would still be here today if I had known that I could come to Canada.
Alex Smith died after trying to ration a vial of insulin when he couldn't afford more.
So his idea about, free health care, he has seen the manifest atrocities that have occurred under socialism.
$1,000 got me 6 months of insulin for my son. That is still less than what I pay a month in the United States.
Gloria Steinem has suggested that younger women are supporting Bernie Sanders so they can meet boys.
Hello, Bernie. We lost our condo, got foreclosed on because of my medical bills.
I don't understand young women who support him.
I trust that Bernie Sanders is going to fight for health care and to lower prescription costs.
Of all the presidential candidates, you're the one that I trust.
Thank you so much for what you're doing. You're just giving us help. Thank you. And we got your back.
I think he comes off as mean. I think he's disparaging.
I don't want to overpromise here.
Bernie Sanders makes my skin crawl, and I can't even identify for you what exactly it is.
Bernie Sanders has done nothing between 2016 and today.
Thank you for everything you've done these last few years. You've helped to reset our political discourse, and are demanding that we center our politics around justice and equity. I am hopeful because right now, there is a mass movement of people from all over this country, rising up.
Thank you all very much. It ain't Bernie, it is us.
If we come together, we will win.
This video went viral, and 987% of Bernie Sanders supporters looked at this video and was like, yes, yes, goddammit. Because we understand that the media hasn't necessarily been a fair arbiter in this process, that they have been pushing Warren whole hog, especially when you get it to MSNBC. They have been outright absurd in their push for Warren. I mean, so over the top. I mean, somebody saying that supporting Sanders is equivalent to being sexist. I hate to tell you this, that will massively turn off Bernie Sanders supporters. And nobody in their right mind believes that. There are people who believe it, but not in their right mind. On top of that, most Sanders supporters said, give that kid a job. Give that guy a job. Whoever did that video, he needs to be working with the Sanders team. And when this video went viral, you saw it having people sharing this thing all over the place. Matt starts getting, I would imagine, working with the team. And on the exact same day, there are various people who got extremely hysterical over things that took place when he was in his 20s, like 10 years ago, in videos that he did, that you might make the argument that are juvenile, maybe simplistic, but by no means worth the hysteria that was given to it. And that hysteria gained enough resonance in order for Matt to succumb within the same day that he got the offer. Meaning the person who did this video, who was given, to some degree, a shot to work in coordination with the Sanders camp, also lost the job on the same day. I want to talk about it. Yeah, I want to talk about it. Welcome to the Soapbox. My name is Jamarl Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. Guys, if you dig this content, you find yourself coming back often, please like, share, subscribe. You can always support PayPal Patron. When real men can't sleep, real men do the news. It is, 3 in the morning. This video is not going to be long. This was an issue that came up that I was going back and forth with people on Twitter over. And I want to talk about it. I'll be succinct, but I do want to talk about it. There are other issues that I want to get to. However, this slightly bugged me. So I have a platform, I have a channel, and I can talk about whatever I want on my channel. Matt made that video, Rising Up. That video goes viral. So much so that people on the camp starts working with him. Now, he gets the offer. He comes out and says he gets the offer. And enemies, people who don't like Sanders, people who are angry at Sanders for all sorts of reasons, people who are bitter that this video went viral, only because this video did well, and because they hate Sanders, they are that much more bitter that the video did well. The moment that he comes out and says, I'm going to be working with the Sanders camp, people start looking into other videos that he's done and raising up some and ignoring others, howls at the moon that, oh my God, look at what this guy has done in the past. And as some of the videos on Martin Luther King, inappropriate, it wouldn't be something I necessarily would like to watch or I would necessarily do, but he has other videos on King that I would like to watch. And yes, he uses the word retarded probably too often. And back during that day, they used to use the term gay. But think about it for the moment, what we're saying. Something that took place 10 years ago should stop a person from getting a videography job. Not even a job dealing with one of the main things in the campaign. That in and of itself should be enough to stop that person from getting a job. Think of how many people work on campaigns. Sanders has, 1 million people, volunteers. Not to mention thousands all across the United States. Think about the lives of those people. Those people live full lives. Think about the lives of those people as they were growing up. Do you honestly believe that the people, all of those people in the campaign, will have not done things that you may disagree with, might not hold ideas that you disagree with, and may have a track record of things that if you look at, you probably wouldn't disagree with? I have no expectation that everybody that's on all of the campaigns are going to be pushing ideas that I agree with or have done things in the past that I agree with. They're there to do a job. And all of them subordinate what they want, their perspective of the world, to the campaign. But many of them are working in the campaign because they have a similar vision of the world. A person who's anti-racist, capitalist. And you're screaming at me that the guy who's doing a video supporting that guy is somehow racist. You're not being serious. Ultimately, the people who are howling at his previous videos were doing so for the very specific reason of accomplishing the objective that they accomplished. To turn something that was an awesome video, and the person who was getting kudos for that video, to somehow smear and mar that with some level of a nonsense controversy. Matt wrote an article in the Medium explaining what was taking place. He went through and he talked about the previous videos. He went through explaining this particular video. And this article has a certain degree of sadness and regret associated with the article in the way that he's explaining, I regret doing these videos in the past. I was a kid. I was getting kicks off of my ability to do this stuff. I look at that and says, yeah, he's probably right. He was a kid. And when he talks about it, you can see a certain degree of heartfelt regret at that stuff, by the same token making the point that, look, they're raising up certain things and dropping down others in order to make their points. He's right. George Galloway has a point that says if you run, they'll chase you for the rest of your life. Matt did nothing wrong. The videos are here for you to see for yourself. You can read it for yourself. Matt did nothing wrong. The catch here is he allowed howler monkeys, people who are no real good intent, meaning he wrote a heartfelt, sincere depiction of these events and the things taking place in his past. And to some degree, this was pushed on by people who were completely the opposite, who were entirely insincere, entirely not earnest, and entirely doing this for political ends of gaining some sort of political concession. The concession being, in this case, him not getting the job. He puts this article, My First Day in Politics, and the thing that he learned in his first day in politics is that there are plenty of people that were massively insincere. Think about it for the moment. All of these people in the video that are saying these things, Bernie Sanders makes her skin crawl, people who support Sanders are sexist. Are they being sincere? And if they're not being sincere, why do you think the people who are attacking you for some reason are all of a sudden being sincere? They are not. They're reaching for political concessions, and they got one. And I'm not one of those people who believe that you should allow your opposition to determine who you are, especially when they're doing this entirely for political reasons. Whatever you want to think of what Matt was doing in the past, fair enough. I don't necessarily dig Martin Luther King stuff. There are parts of it that I dig, meaning other videos, but not the one that the people are bringing up. And again, you can feel any particular way about it, but ultimately, there are all sorts of people who work in all sorts of campaigns. I mean, for fuck's sake, Hillary Clinton was getting money from the Saudis, hundreds of millions of dollars, when she knew they were exporting terrorism. Joe Biden was corrupt, apparently his entire career. But yeah, the video guy, the guy who's going to be working, doing videos, is the problem. I'm sorry, this is nonsense. And I am not in this perspective that believe the opposition should dictate my actions. This video, this article is heartfelt. And the people who were howling about issues with Matt are looking through this article and laughing. They're not taking this article in the sincere way that he's putting this article out. The sincerity is seen by the people who actually care. But the people who are essentially throwing this stuff against the wall were only throwing this stuff against the wall to see what effect they were going to get and to do anything that they could to essentially denigrate what was actually an awesome viral video and an opportunity for Matt to work with a campaign that he clearly was supporting. From the standpoint of Sanders, I kind of get it. And I even get it from the standpoint of Matt. Matt decided to back away. And the Sanders campaign didn't necessarily back him up in the sense of saying, no, we're going to stick with you regardless. From the Sanders campaign standpoint, the videos on Martin Luther King, Maybe they're looking at it as we need the black vote and we don't necessarily want to have any potential to adversely affect us. But I have to be honest, this seems like something, a hysterical thing that will go away with over the course of a few days. And at the point where Matt is working with the campaign, any video that's released is released by the campaign, not necessarily by the individual Matt. I understand where, in the sense, threats are larger than the actual hit itself. And from the Sanders camp, they may look at this as, okay, we don't want to take any chances. And from Matt's standpoint, I don't want to hurt your campaign. But I would wager to you, just reading this article, that it hurts. It hurts. It burns. Sincerely, it burns. But the people who were pushing for this were massively insincere. And were only doing this because they hated Sanders. And it just so happens that you did a video that was viral, that people loved, about Sanders. And they were looking for anything at all, to tear you down. He says, my first day in politics. This article, if you need to write this article, my wife says I have a tendency to over-explain and to give too many examples. And I agree with her. And in this article, I wish it would have just been 5 words. You all, or to my enemies, fuck you. Or some phraseology of that. Go fuck yourself. It could have been any phraseology of those words. Even if you wanted to write this entire thing, explaining your perspective of what was taking place and why you were doing the previous videos and everything else. Mark Twain has a saying that a lie gets around the world before truth puts on his boots. Meaning the people are howling about this. It's become context. It's difficult to explain sometimes, as opposed to people who are just screaming about something with a certain degree of hysteria. You can write this, and you can explain why you did the various videos on Martin Luther King and why you did the videos on Sanders and all this stuff. You can totally explain it. Explain when you were a kid, how you, all that stuff is perfectly fine. And at the very end of that, at the very end, to my enemies, fuck you. I am going to work with the Sanders camp and we're going to win this goddamn election and go from there. I don't like the fact that he didn't stay with the camp. I don't like the fact that the Sanders camp didn't fight for him. I don't like the fact that the Sanders camp didn't say, no, we want to keep you on. We're not going to allow people who hate our guts and are massively insincere in the attacks that are taking place, and we know they're massively insincere, to define who we hire and who we don't hire, especially from the standpoint of the videographer. One of the companies that I used to work at, or the last company I worked at, there was a guy that they said used to work there. They used to come in with a dog collar. He would come in with a dog collar because his mistress told him to wear the dog collar. I think that's pretty kinky and I think that's pretty sexy, but I wouldn't be quite dead walking out the house with a dog collar on. But to each his own. I'm not going to sex shame the guy. And if I'm being honest, I could care less if a guy walked in with a dog collar on. I would have a certain degree of pride in that guy, meaning I think that's badass that you have the balls to do it. And it's also badass that you got a mistress. But none of that matters. He's there to do a job. I hope you understand what I mean. The person who's the videographer, the person who's doing videos, is not the person who's maintaining the thought and perspective of the camp. And the notion that the person who is doing videos for the campaign, stuff that he did 10 years ago, is used to be thrown on the wall in order to try to smear him and keep him from getting the job. I find that to be utterly ludicrous. And I can't take anybody seriously for screaming and howling about that when you get my point. I think you get my point. Ultimately, I don't think he should have backed down. I hate the fact that he backed down. And I hate the fact that Sanders didn't necessarily back him up. Thousands of people across the United States have jobs working with campaigns. And the notion that something that he did 10 years ago is going to be the thing that stops him from getting the job that he wants, and for the Sanders camp to back away from that. I'm sorry, that's troubling. Don't let your enemies define your particular perspective, especially when you've done nothing wrong. And he's done nothing wrong. Call it juvenile, say it was inappropriate, all that stuff may be true. All of those things are purely derived from perspective. But his enemies are dancing on his grave right now because ultimately they were being massively insincere. And in writing this, he is being extremely earnest and sincere in talking about his past and some of the videos that he wrote in his past and explaining why he wrote those videos. And I have to be honest, all of us, I think it's insincere like nobody's business to pretend that all of us haven't done things in the past that we are not necessarily the most proud of. That's called being a person. That's called being a person. People evolve. People evolve. And if I'm being honest, all of those videos, even the ones I don't like, got him to the point of being able to do this particular video. And this is the video that matters. This is the video that shows skill and acumen. And this is the video where they should have backed him on. I'll leave it here. I don't want this one to be too long, and this one is gone 20 minutes. Like, share, subscribe. Matt did an amazing job. And Matt should have been backed. I hate the fact that they fired the guy that within the course of a day. Or not fired him. That's not the right word for it. He said he backed away from it, and the campaign didn't necessarily back him up on it. So, in one day they were together, and one day they split apart. Like, share, subscribe. Thanks all.